Okay, Derbyites, welcome to our viewing panel slugfest for the 2015 Emmys. We're going to talk about the race for best guest actor in a drama series. And I thought I watched all the episodes. So has Rob. So has Riley. We watched all the episodes, and I thought for sure I knew who was winning this. But then I see Riley's rankings, and Riley, who do you have in first place here?
I've got Pablo Schreiber for Orange is the New Black.
You have to explain your thinking because I have him way down in fourth place, and Rob, you have him in third. So why do you think he's winning this?
Well, I watched the episodes. None of them really wowed me. So I find in races like that, sometimes what happens is they just ignore the episode submitted and they just go with whoever is their favorite character or whoever is their favorite actress, maybe like Maggie Smith. But I think Pablo Schreiber's character stands out because he is really playing, such a character. I think that helped Jeremy Davies win a few years ago when there's a similarly wide open race, and I think it also helped Peter Dinklage win supporting actor.
Hmm. And Rob, you think he's onto something?
Yeah, well, when I watched the episode, firstly, I was a bit disappointed that he wasn't nominated previous season when he had much more material. But
Right.
in this episode, there are a lot of gaps between his scenes. But when he's on the screen, he's mesmerizing. I think he's really quite funny, which doesn't help him. But he's really good, and he makes a lot of impact, and that's important. Because I have to say, a lot of this category was a bit of a snooze for me. And then when I watched Pablo Schreiber, I was kind of sitting up in my seat, really paying attention. That helps. It has to help.
I mean, he's hardly ever there, but it was the same thing with Uzo Aduba last year, where she was barely in her episode, but when you think back over who you actually saw, like, she's the one that really stood out because she had those memorable little moments.
Mm-hmm. And I guess Pablo Schreiber, I mean, even when he wasn't on camera, they were talking about his character a lot. So he still felt, he was really important to the episode. And I agree about the impact thing. Like, I think his was the fifth I watched out of six. And when he came on, like, with the music in the background, just walking down the hallway, giving shots to everyone, I'm like, ooh, now we have a contender here. And that was really his only scene. I mean, he had another scene in the cafeteria and another scene, like, with Matt McGorry's character, but I don't know.
He's barely there. He's 3 minutes of screen time, and it's like almost an hour long episode.
Yeah.
But that's not unusual this year because everyone seems to be
This
cameo.
category, they're all pretty much, I think, I'm just looking, they're all pretty much in about 3 scenes. Alan Alda's got a bit more material because he does a bit of in the background work, but they're all pretty much having 3 major scenes towards the beginning, the middle, and the end. I think Reggie Cathy only has a couple. But they're all, in terms of screen time, they all seem to have they're all on similar footing, is what I'm trying to say. So that's why it was all about impact. And I know, Marcus, you have Beau Bridges up in first place. I'm sure you do.
Yeah, because I'm smart.
Yeah, and I do as well. In fact, I have him well out in front. I mean, he won a few years ago. He's always nominated for something. He didn't win last year for the same role, but this one's it's very impactful. It's very emotional. He cries. He's struggling. He tries to kill himself. Spoiler alert, sorry. And yeah, so his scenes are very impactful as well. For me, it was all about impact in this category because the others, to me, were a little boring. Yeah, so that's why I'm thinking Beau Bridges is still out in front.
I agree, and he has the physical acting as well, when he's on the doctor's table getting the electroshock therapy, and you feel for him. It's a very empathetic character, especially in this episode. And I just think this is a slam dunk. I'm not going to call it a lock. People get mad when I say, "Oh, it's a lock," but I don't know. I think he's got it. What about you, Riley?
Yeah, I have him second. I think he definitely has the best episode submission, but I'm not sure that he crosses the line over into having just a great episode submission in absolute terms. I feel like voters will look at him and, he looks like Beau Bridges. I mean, he won 3 times in the 90s, and he's been nominated 9 times since. So I think they love to nominate him. I don't know if they ever consider him as having as much range or as interesting a performance as they like to award in these categories. But yeah, for sure, he does, try to commit suicide. He cries. He has sex. He's going through electroshock therapy, and he seems like a legitimate supporting player in the series, which is what they tend to nominate in this category.
There's a pattern this year that, all of the guys that are nominated, I think all of them, I feel like in previous seasons they had a bigger, more impactful role, and this year they're kind of, it's kind of like cameo after cameo, which is really unique pattern. And he's one of those.
This is like, it's the makeup category. Like F. Murray Abraham could have won in a previous, maybe the previous season. Alan Alda, that's the only one I'm not sure about.
He was in a lot of episodes last season.
Well, there you go. Yeah. Michael J. Fox was much better in previous seasons of The Good Wife, as was Bo Bridges in the first season, as was Reg E. Cathy. So this seems like they've just... I think this is a real name-check category. They really did not make much of an effort here.
Yeah, I agree. I think the guy that should have won is... Really, there's two. I think Courtney B. Vance from Scandal would have given this category a nice facelift. And then... who was the other one? Totally blanking. Oh, David Hyde Pierce for Good Wife could have. He probably would be my pick to win, actually.
Yeah, agreed.
So someone we have in our top three, all of us, is Michael J. Fox. Who wants to talk about Michael?
Sure. Like, the thing is, Michael J. Fox, I feel like he submits kind of the same episode every year. It's just something where he overplays it, where he's playing up his condition. And in this episode, what was the only thing that I thought separated this submission from his past ones is that you had to wait 23 minutes before he appeared on screen. So I was just waiting, and then they bring in like another lawyer to do a mock trial, and I thought, oh, here he comes, but no, you just keep waiting for him. He's been in wide open races before, and they've gone for other people, and I guess he's helped by the new system where it's possibly less dependent on episode submissions and more just on general popularity.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. In fact, when I was watching the episode, I thought, have I got the right one? I kept looking at my list, thinking, I think I'm watching the wrong one. And then he finally showed up, and I remember the episode. It was early in the season, so I didn't quite remember it. And I've got to say, no disrespect to Michael J. Fox, and this is coming from a really big Good Wife fan. I think all three of us are fans of the show, right? So this is coming from a fan. No disrespect to him, but I really dislike this character, and every time he's on it, I roll my eyes and think, oh, God, I can't stand this character. Can we just kill him off? And but that being said, when he was on, I thought he was really pretty good, actually, and I was kind of into it, and that's why I've got him in second. So he could finally win another Emmy for this particular... Well, win another Emmy generally, but first for this role. So it's a possibility if they don't want to go with Masters of Sex.
I think his big scene is toward the end with Alicia when she she mentions a couple times in the episode, like, are you really dying? Are you really dying? Because he always does this over the top thing. The character does, and in the final scene she asks him again, and you get the feeling that he in the past he's always kind of lied about his health, but this time he's not. And I know where the story goes, of course, but voters probably won't. But that was my favorite scene of his. And by the way, when he came in the courtroom in the wheelchair, did you guys get a David E. Kelly vibe, like an over-the-top courtroom antics type of thing? And that's what those David Kelly shows win all the time for acting.
Yeah.
He doesn't have those big speeches though.
Yeah, that's true.
But Paul McCrane won for Harry's Law a few years ago, and it kind of, even though he doesn't have a lot of grandstanding like Paul McCrane did, and he wasn't in the jail cell like Paul McCrane was, it reminded me a bit of that tone. And they do love David E. Kelly tone, don't they?
Yeah,
that's true.
So Alan Alda, I think he is the dark horse to win this. I have him in second. Let's see, Rob has him in fourth. You're crazy. And Riley has him in sixth. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, you're even crazier. He is an Emmy legend. And spoiler alert, he dies in his episode. I'm assuming everyone has watched the episodes if you're watching the Slugfest. And it's such an emotional scene. They bring back the cage, the glass cage from the pilot. And I don't know, it's a really memorable performance. You can't take your eyes off of him. Why do you guys have him so low?
Well, I'll speak up first because my view on this is if this was played by some really great character actor named Joe Smith, we wouldn't be talking about it. It's because it's Alan Alda, and I think the category was a little light, and so they just checked him off. And he's okay, but he does a lot of just sitting with a thing around his neck and looking kind of pensive and worried, and then his head explodes, and, well, his whole body explodes, and yeah, a lot of red brain matter goes on the glass. And that was really like, oh, that was really not a nice thing to watch. But apart from that, I didn't get any other impact, and I was waiting for something. And I just felt like he looked really worried and concerned that he was going to die and regretful, and he had a couple of really nice, quiet speeches, but it just didn't do it for me. And I'm sure Riley will agree because he's got him all the way down in 6.
Yeah, I mean, technically he is, about to die, and there's some inherent bait there. But, as Rob said, if this was played by anybody else, it would never be brought up. I mean, I was watching Michael J. Fox's episode, waiting for him to show up, and then there's that girl, she's on the stand, or, the equivalent, and she's talking about how she got raped, and she's crying about that. I mean, that kind of performance is given in every episode of every procedural on television. And Alan Alda, he's the guest star of the week, but it's just not something that incites any passion or that anybody would remember if his name was not Alan Alda.
Yeah. There's a big theory that, if your last name is one of the first on the ballot, that you'll get nominated. I think that was definitely in play here. I mean, there's Alda, Bridges, Fox, Kathy, Abraham. The only guy, Pablo Schreiber, he's the only guy toward the end of the alphabet.
Yeah,
which is really
started running out of options. But let's talk about F. Murray Abraham, Oscar winner.
Wait, I'm not done with Alda. I think you guys are wrong. I think you should just. I mean, remember, one of you guys said earlier that this is kind of a wide open category. Anyone could win. Why not go for the Emmy legend? He's won so many Emmys, too many to count. He just won a decade ago for The West Wing. I think that was kind of a shocker that year. But did you guys have an issue with the square thing around his neck? I mean, it was so wide. The opening was so wide. All he had to do was take it off. Was that just me?
I didn't notice that. No. What I did notice was I haven't seen The Blacklist since the pilot, and I mean, people say that Game of Thrones is hard to follow. Like,
yeah,
it's so dense this episode. Yeah.
This was a game changer. This was a really good episode for them. And The Blacklist, it actually won an Emmy last year. It was nominated just once. It was for stunts, and it won. So they're batting 100% here, and now Alan Alda is the only nominee this year, so he can, I think he could win.
That's a good point, I guess.
Well,
I've never watched
sense,
it. I couldn't follow it either, and I've never seen it, and I don't think I ever will want to watch it unless I have to. Let's move on, because I want to talk about F. Murray Abraham only because I love that character in Homeland. I think it's one of the better characters on that show, and he was so good in the first season that he appeared in, which I can't remember which season that was. I think it was season 2. In this, unfortunately, he doesn't have a lot to do. He has 3 scenes, really, and the last one in particular, which is towards the end of the finale, is excellent. I think. He doesn't do a lot. He doesn't throw things and scream and shout, but I just thought he had a lot of intensity with Claire Danes, and I really enjoy his character, and I just think that could help him, even though I have him in second last place.
Yeah, I wasn't too impressed with this episode overall. I just started the Homeland binge. Last week I watched all 12 episodes. It was a fantastic season, and then you get to the finale, and it's like, what were they thinking? It was like a soap opera.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're right. It was the 3-scene pattern we see in this category: a middle scene, a beginning, middle, and end scene. And the previous episode, it makes you think he's some kind of evil mole that's going to be a bad guy, and it turns out he's not. And I was just really let down by that. And I think I have him in 5th. What about you, Riley?
Yeah, I've got him in 5th. I mean, the thing about him and Alan Alda and Pablo Schreiber that kind of worries me is that they've all been eligible for this role before, and they've been overlooked. I think they're getting in because the Academy cracked down on what qualifies as a guest performance and what doesn't. So now, like in previous years, they're probably around 7th, 8th, 9th. So that worries me a little bit about the new popular vote system where voters may not be watching the episodes as much. I do think that with the guest categories, though, they might treat them like the short categories of the Oscars, where they will only vote if they feel actually qualified to. We'll see.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Is there any chance he could pull off a shocker and win for this? I mean, if they do, it's because of his work overall, right, on the season, not this episode.
I feel like they nominated him for Amadeus, but
Yeah, that's going to be the explanation. If he ends up, if any of these guys end up taking the trophy away from Beau Bridges, it will be because they like him and they like the show, maybe, and that's it. Because, well, you know, that he's an Emmy legend, or there'll be other reasons. And for him, it'll be they love this character on Homeland, and they do like the show because it's back in the drama series race.
Right. That was a shocker for me. Did you guys predict that? The Homeland Best Drama nomination?
I thought they were done.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so there's one guy I think we haven't talked about, Reggie Cathy.
Yeah. What do you think? I have him in last place because I love this character. He was much better in the previous season. But
yeah,
he asks for a job. Well, he gets offered a job and he asks for it to be a groundskeeper, and then he talks to his nephew. Is it? I can't remember. And that's pretty much it. Yeah. Doesn't do much.
Yeah, he was stronger in previous seasons for sure. I'm just glad they brought him back because this show is not afraid of losing characters or killing them off, and he's such a likable character, so relatable. I think that's maybe why he keeps getting in here.
Mm.
Yeah, I just have him ranked so relatively highly because I think people like his character. So I wonder about if a popular vote will affect that. But yeah, he's just in a 4-minute chunk in the middle of the episode, and there's nothing really of note.
Right. But did he have something better to submit? I don't think so. I think he was such a small part this season. I'm glad he got nominated. I love his character. I think he's a great addition to the show.
I don't think he had much better than this. There's a couple more that he's in, but he doesn't. This would have been his only choice. And so that being said, I don't think any of us are jumping out of our skin about this category. It's not really very much.
I'm glad Beau Bridges is here because if he wasn't here, geez, I don't know what I would do. Maybe Alan Alda.
Yeah, it would be tough.
I'm looking at the overall rankings of Gold Derby. Beau Bridges, number one. Alan Alda, number two. Yes. Reggie Cathy, number three. That's interesting. And then Michael J. Fox, F. Murray Abraham, Pablo Schreiber in last place. I don't think that's right. I think people are underestimating him. But I wouldn't say he's going to win, Riley.
Well, no guts, no glory, hey? If he wins, you'll get all the glory.
Yeah. His episode, he had a couple episodes to submit, because he's only in 2, and then he's in 1 before, just at the very end of the episode when they say his name, pretty much. So I was looking at his other episode. It's pretty much the same structure. He's got 3 scenes, except in that one, his impact scene is probably the last one when he's exiting the same doors that he came in the previous episode. Mm-hmm. It's too bad that he couldn't submit, I don't know, his scenes from both of them somehow. I think then he would actually have a decent episode submission.
Mm.
In season... Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, if he had an episode from season 1 to submit, he would have been way out in front. He was so much better in the first season.
Yeah,
for sure. He was in every episode too.
Yeah, true. He would have been supporting.
In season 3, he's only in, I think, 1 episode, right? So maybe next year he'll come back into the guest race again.
Mm.
All right, cool. So keep coming back to Gold Derby. We're gonna do many more for every acting category. We're gonna do one of these slugfests. So you're gonna get sick of us by the end of it. We'll see you next time. Bye.